The year is 1942, and the global logistics chain has completely shattered. Millions of soldiers are fighting across continents, and yet the greatest threat isn't just the enemy's artillery, it is the simple, devastating reality of starvation. If you were to look at a modern city today, with its fragile just-in-time supply chain, you would realize we are arguably more vulnerable than the citizens of London or Berlin were 80 years ago. During World War II, the desperate need to keep armies and civilian populations alive sparked a revolution in food technology that we have largely forgotten or relegated to the back of the pantry. This isn't just a look at old tins of meat, it is a deep dive into the engineering of survival and whether these forgotten methods could actually sustain a modern metropolis during a total systemic collapse. If you are serious about history and the mechanics of survival, you are in the right place. Before we break down the science of the C-Ration and the logistics of the British Food Ministry, make sure to subscribe to Atten Recounts so you never miss these deep dives into the technologies that shaped our world. The engineering behind the tin can was a matter of national security rather than mere convenience. When we talk about World War II rations, most people think of unappetizing mystery meat, but the technical requirements were staggering. A standard American C-Ration had to withstand being dropped from aircraft without a parachute, endure the humid rot of the South Pacific jungles, and survive the sub-zero temperatures of the Ardennes, all while remaining bacteria-free for years. The Type C ration, finalized in 1941, was a masterpiece of metallurgy and thermal processing. It consisted of two cans, the M unit containing meat and the B unit containing bread, coffee and sugar. The secret to their longevity was the use of heavy-duty tin plate and a double-seaming process that created a hermetic seal far superior to the consumer-grade cans we see on grocery shelves today. This tech allowed for commercial sterility, where the food was cooked inside the sealed can at high pressure to kill even the most resilient spores like Clostridium botulinum. If a modern city were to face a total blockade, reviving this level of ruggedized high-pressure canning at a local level would be the only way to prevent mass spoilage of existing agricultural yields. Mass dehydration served as the backbone of global logistics during the height of the war. While the tin can was vital, the sheer weight of water in canned food made shipping it across the Atlantic a logistical nightmare. This forced the development of advanced dehydration techniques that could reduce a crate of potatoes or eggs to a fraction of its original weight and volume. The British National Dried Egg and the American D-Ration chocolate bars were results of this push. By removing nearly 95% of the moisture content through controlled heat or early vacuum drying processes, engineers created calorie-dense blocks that were impervious to rot. In a modern urban survival scenario, the lesson here is volume density. A city cannot store enough canned water-heavy soup to last a winter, but it can store tons of dehydrated vegetable mash and powdered protein. Applying this today involves using low-tech solar dehydration or repurposing industrial ovens to process local harvests before they spoil, turning a warehouse of rotting produce into a multi-year food bank in a matter of days. The British Ministry of Food proved that centralised rationing is an exercise in nutritional chemistry. Feeding a city isn't just about calories, it's about preventing deficiency diseases like scurvy or pellagra, which honestly can cripple a population faster than a lack of bread. Lord Woolton, the British Minister of Food, turned the entire nation into, well, a laboratory for nutritional science. He introduced the national loaf, a grey, unappealing bread that was fortified with calcium and vitamins to ensure the working class stayed healthy enough to staff the factories. They also utilised victory gardens not as a hobby, but as a calculated supplement to the ration system, focusing on high-yield, nutrient-dense crops like carrots and potatoes. For a modern historian or survivalist, the takeaway is the Woolton pie methodology, using local seasonal tubers and filling gaps with fortified, shelf-stable proteins. If you were to apply this in a modern urban context, you'd prioritise the cultivation of high-calorie root vegetables in every available green space, while centrally managing the distribution of forgotten fats like lard and tallow, which were the caloric anchors of the WWII diet. Repurposing industrial infrastructure for emergency food processing is, I think, a forgotten art. During the war, car factories didn't just build tanks, they were often converted to process and package dry goods. This flexibility is something modern cities, unfortunately, lack. In WWII, the process of mobile canning allowed rural farmers to bring their produce to a travelling steam pressure unit that would seal their harvest for the winter. To replicate this today, one would need to understand the mechanics of steam-jacketed kettles and pressure retorts. You can actually apply this knowledge on a smaller scale by mastering the pressure canning method, which is distinct from simple water bath canning. It requires a vessel that can reach 240 degrees Fahrenheit to safely preserve low-acid foods like meat and beans. For a serious survivalist, owning and knowing how to maintain a manual pressure canner is the equivalent of owning a piece of watered infrastructure. It allows you to take a raw deer or a bulk shipment of beans and turn it into a shelf-stable resource that requires zero electricity to maintain for 5 to 10 years. The psychological impact of food variety was treated as a tactical necessity by military planners. Historians often overlook the accessory pack included in rations, which contained cigarettes, matches, chewing gum, and toilet paper. Planners realized that palate fatigue could lead to soldiers simply refusing to eat, which would lead to a loss of combat effectiveness. In a modern crisis, feeding a city on a monotonous diet of grain would eventually lead to civil unrest and a breakdown of order. The WWII December solution was the inclusion of concentrated flavourings and stimulants. For a modern application, this means your long-term storage shouldn't just be bulk calories. It must include high-value trade items like spices, bouillon, concentrates, and caffeine. These force multipliers of the dinner table keep morale high. If you are preparing or studying these systems, focus on the acquisition of shelf-stable condiment tech like mustard powder, vinegar, and salt, which were the unsung heroes that made the grueling WWII diet endurable for the long haul. Reviving these forgotten technologies requires, well, a shift from consumerism to production. The ultimate lesson of WWII food tech is that survival is an active process. The reason cities today would struggle to feed themselves is that we have outsourced the processing of our food to distant, electrified factories. To feed a city today using these forgotten methods, we'd need to decentralize canning, relearn the science of bulk dehydration, and understand the chemistry of fortification. You can start applying this by moving beyond stockpiling and toward processing. Learn how to make hardtack, the legendary survival bread of the era, which is essentially flour and water baked until it is a ceramic-hard, shelf-stable brick. It isn't glamorous, but honestly, it's a proven technology that has sustained human beings through the most brutal conflicts in history. By understanding these WWII systems, we gain the blueprint for a resilient future. If you found this deep dive into the logistics of history valuable, make sure to share this video with fellow enthusiasts and subscribe to Atten Recounts for more in-depth explorations of the tech that kept the world turning in its darkest hours.